Welcome back to Free Media. I'm Robby Soave.
And I'm Niall Stanage.
Well, Senator Rand Paul spoke out against the Trump administration's strikes on alleged Venezuelan drug smuggling boats and also warned against going to war with Venezuela without congressional approval. Take a look.
About 25% of the time that the Coast Guard boards a vessel in the Caribbean looking for drugs, about 25% of the time the boat that's boarded doesn't have drugs. So we've blown up 4 boats. Statistically speaking, what are the odds that one of the boats didn't have drugs? We haven't heard the names of who these drug dealers are. How do you know for certain who they are before you kill them? So I'm not in favor of the current policy. I'm in favor of the continued policy on interdiction of drugs, which is that we do search ships, but that there's a methodical way about doing this and not just dropping bombs on everyone.
So this was a really great interview, I thought, on Newsmax, which is, a very, very pro-Trump, pro-MAGA outlet. And it was a thoughtful interview, so I was very glad to see Rand Paul, someone of my ideological direction, talking about why, even though he remains very supportive of the president and supportive of a lot of his policies, doesn't think this indiscriminate destruction of all these ships is necessarily a good idea. We can't correct a policy after we kill everybody on board.
Right.
This is worrisome.
It's absolutely more than worrisome. It is also one of those issues where my liberal perspective and your libertarianism meet, the horseshoe meets, I think, on this one. Because, look, it is just unconscionable to me that we're in a situation where it hasn't even caused all that much outrage, that the United States is just in the business of killing people in the open sea with no proof, no justification other than the rhetoric from someone like Pete Hegseth, no means to, well, obviously for them to defend themselves because they got obliterated, and no attempt to interdict, to use Rand Paul's word, the boats with any lesser force, just like blow them up. I mean, that seems crazy to me, especially when, if the alleged offence is drug smuggling, there are very well established law enforcement or drug prohibition measures where you try and intercept the boat and you board the boat and you see if it has drugs, and if it has drugs, then people are obviously charged with the criminal offence of drug smuggling or related. So to just sort of go around in this rather vainglorious and sometimes I would say cartoonish way, where Hegseth releases these videos and people are seemingly expected to applaud these acts of violence, is bizarre to me.
Yeah, and again, without congressional authorization, without any kind of saying, okay, this is what we're doing, this is what we, our elected representatives, have voted to do, and it makes us, I think, raises reasonable concern. This is some kind of participation in a proxy conflict with Venezuela aimed at toppling the regime. As Rand says in that interview, he has no love for the Venezuelan regime. He thinks Venezuela is a failed state that is really bad for its people, and if the people choose new leadership, that's their right to do. Wish them well. But we've had all this history of awful regimes now being placed by regimes that are not actually improvements from our involvement. Hope everything works out great with the new president of Syria, who's formerly ISIS Al-Qaeda. And actually, maybe this will be the one time it's all okay. Fine, great. It was not great when Gaddafi got overthrown. We wish Saddam was still in charge of Iraq. I mean, come on now. This is our hemisphere. It's not an apples to apples comparison, fine, but you still can't get around the fact that you need a congressional declaration. You need Congress to discuss what it's going to do with Venezuela, not just have the Secretary of War, the Secretary of State, or Trump himself snap his fingers and say, we get explosions. I mean, Congress is useless. They're pathetic if they're not going to do anything to say, we are the branch that makes these decisions.
Right. I mean, they have ceded an enormous amount of power with almost no protest whatsoever, just sort of let Trump do whatever he wishes. Now, to be fair to the Democrats, who I am critical of in various other ways, they don't have much power in Congress to stop it.
Right.
But the propensity of Republicans to just accede to these Trumpian demands is wild. To be fair to Rand Paul, whether I agree with everything he believes in or not is kind of beside the point. He has, in fact, been very vocal, not only on this issue, but particularly on this issue, about standing up for what he believes in and standing up for his principles. And that has become extremely rare, I would say, in the Republican Party, certainly
difficult.
during the Trump. I'm sure he gets criticised for it, as I'm sure Congressman Thomas Massey gets assailed for it in various ways. But, I would certainly put my hand up and say, fair enough to Rand Paul for doing this. And as you know, he's done similar in terms of spending issues and things like that. So, good enough.
It's easy to stand up for your principles when your principles don't conflict with Trump, is basically what we've discovered, and very hard otherwise. As we've just gotten more, you got to be in line with Trump. And if you're not in line with Trump, you're perceived as, well, then you're never Trump, and you properly belong in the Democratic Party or the mainstream media. Being able to skirt both sides or have some views that overlap with one or the other has become tremendously difficult in our modern politics, which is in some ways challenging for ideological organizations like the one that's producing this video that has that we have our very consistent views, and Trump and Republicans are inconsistent on economics, on size of government, on whether we're starting wars, whether we're ending wars. I'd say Democrats are inconsistent in a lot of those things too, or from my perspective, consistently bad on them. So what's the point? And then it's like you have no friends.
Well, I mean, I think that is a genuine issue. Do you remember, was it the 2020 election where the Republican Party just said, well, we're not going to have a platform, actually, because it was essentially whatever Donald Trump wanted was going to be the platform. And because he is so ideologically consistent, they didn't want to box themselves in by writing down what he was actually going to believe. And we see this even in the shutdown negotiations. I know not your or mine particular favourite topic, but the whole argument was, the Republicans are not going to negotiate over these healthcare issues. And then earlier this week, Trump was asked about it, and he was like, I want good healthcare. We can talk about that. And it's just like, where do we go from here?
Right. He makes them scramble every time. It's going to be fascinating to see what this party looks like when Trump finally does exit the presidential venue, if he continues to hold sway over it, or how the next person will behave.
Absolutely.
More free media right after this.